When you run a staffing firm and help augment teams in technology companies or run software development projects, you learn a lot about remote work. Adrian Esquival joins me, the author of The Future of the Workforce is Now, to talk remote work on this bonus episode of The Business of Tech. Your clients are looking for proactive cyber resilience and you to be their virtual chief information security officer to assess their security posture, enhance compliance readiness, and reduce their cyber risk. Want to do that at scale? Sonomi's AI-driven vCISO platform helps managed service providers and consulting firms make their customers cyber resilient. Try it today. Visit Sonomi.com and book a demo. Tell them you heard about it on The Business of Tech. That's CYNOMI.com. Adrian, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Now, I got to start with, how did you get interested in researching and writing about remote work?
We've been in the tech space, or I've been in the tech space for 20-something years, and our company, TECKpert, we provide IT and technical workforce for clients, and our pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, after the pandemic, we've always provided a technical workforce for our clients, and they're always distributed and spread around the country. So we've been doing this for a long time, and thought one day, hey, let's write about it and put it out there, see if we can help some people who are trying to navigate this.
So how do you summarize your sort of philosophy to remote work?
It's not for everyone, number one, right? So I think someone that has the responsibility to be able to, and the discipline to be able to, kind of lock in at home and not be distracted and be able to execute and do their work, can be successful at doing this, right? And I think that's one of the things that you have to have. Plus, the work that you're doing has to be able to be performed where, it's remote and not in the office.
So you say, it's not for everyone. What defines the people that it's not for in your mind?
I think you have to be able to be have that self-starter. You have to be a self-starter. You have to be, responsible. You have to be able to manage your time effectively. You have to be a good communicator, right? So, we're communicating over video today, and we're talking, and you can do that. We do this all the time with our coworkers, right? So being able to do that, but also, being able to just communicate in general. Some people kind of, they're in their office, they're alone, and they kind of think that there's no one there, but everybody's just a message away, a Slack message away, an email away, or a video chat away. So being able to communicate and wanting to communicate is very important, for that. So
now, one of the things that people are constantly talking about in this space is that if you're working remotely or you have distributed teams, that you lose the serendipitous exchange, right? The magical serendipitous exchange. What's your approach when you're building teams and working with customers to build remote teams to instill and address that concern?
The presence and the communications is so important, right? So in the course of a work day, right? You're going to have meetings, right? You're going to have your normal, let's say, depending on what kind of work you're doing, you may have a stand-up meeting in the morning. You may have normal scheduled recurring, meetings throughout the day or week. Those are going to happen, right? So you're going to have conversation, you're going to have communication with people, right? But I go back to what I was saying before, which is, willing to communicate, when you have an idea, when you have something that or you have that aha moment or something that you have to share, get with, kind of get out there and talk to people, right? Work on that idea, set up a call. Hey, I had this solution, I think, for this challenge that we're facing now. Let's all, get together real quick and talk about that. So kind of jump, taking that initiative and saying, here's something that that I want to communicate with my fellow coworkers about to work through a solution. Doing that, right? Don't let those things just kind of be forgotten, right? Like, oh, I'll take care of that later when I have some time. No, communicate with your coworkers and work together on ideas.
Now, you've written a book on this. So you've written the book, The Future of the Workforce is Now. And I wanted to ask you, in the book, give me a little bit of a taste of the way that you approach team management and what you recommend to help managers think about the way that they should be managing their teams, and then, of course, recommending to customers to do it that way.
Yeah. So, obviously we're in the tech space, so I think we've always had an advantage, right, in terms of how we work, right? In our company specifically, we're born in we're I guess fairly new, right? 10 plus years old, right? But a lot of companies, a lot of businesses have been doing things a certain way for a long time, right? So, we always, we've used certain tools that were for project management, for task management, from day one, and we've made that really part of our process. And so our process have always been written or defined by the fact that we were leveraging these technology tools like a project management tool, like a chat tool. In our space, again, we use in software development delivery, we use agile development methodology, and we use software to help manage that process. So we were always, our processes and our tools have always been tech based, internet based, SaaS based, right? So those are things that every single day that we use, and our teams are managed like that, right? And so I think that if I gave advice to a lot of companies that maybe were doing things a different way, an older way, right, or a manual way, is to start digitizing those things first, right? Digitize those processes, get those workflows defined, and so that you can start leveraging tools, right, so that you can effectively manage people that are remote, right? But processes and workflows have to be well defined, and a lot of times people again, I try to go use the example of pre-pandemic, may not have really thought about those things because everyone was just right down the hall or in the office, and depending on the size of the organization, some of those processes and workflows weren't as well defined. But I'd always start there first. That's where I always start first, to be able to effectively have a team that is remote that you can manage.
Okay. I want to get you to react to a couple of premises and get your take on what's going on. So one of the things that I've posited out in the market is that a lot of the pushback we're getting is a lot of old school managers that are not willing to embrace new approaches, partly because it's just hard, right? So when you have CEOs saying, "Oh, come back into the office," it's because that they're used to a particular way and it's just difficult to do it another. In a way, like it'd almost be summarized, can you teach an old dog new tricks? What's your take on that premise that it's just stodgy management that's resisting this?
I don't know. That's kind of loaded, I think, in terms of a question, because it's there's a lot of reasons, right? Like people want people back in the office, they want people collaborating, like you had mentioned before. Maybe that serendipitous moment, right? Like they want to get that back. They're paying rent on big space, and they want people in there. That you have managers who just want to do things the old school way. So there's a lot of factors there going on to why just get back in here and let's get back to it. Some control things there, like they can control things better. Look, I think that I think workforce is changing. You have different generations that are coming into the workforce, that are establishing themselves in the workforce. It's going to change whether you like it or not. Now what's the balance, right? I think that's what we look for in anything, right? The balance, the equilibrium in that, right? So, some things will continue to be 100% fully remote, like they were before the pandemic, right? And operated just fine. Some things will return 100% back into the office, and there will be, that's just the way it is, right? And then there will be a great medium, right, between what we call the hybrid, right, which is a combination of in-house and remote. But it's not gonna go away, and it is changing, and it will change, and that's just how you're gonna have to adopt something, and at some point, right? You can't just go back to how things used to be. That's my opinion.
What do you think of when you say the workforce is changing? Is that generational? Is it just expectations? What do you mean by that?
So yes, I would say it's I would say part of it is generational, right? But I think also it's the technology, and it's allowing for that, right? And so when you try to bring in the best talent to an organization, right? You don't want to be necessarily limited to what geographic region either, right? That they have to physically be in my city or my location or located just a commute away, right? And if they're looking at density in certain metropolitan areas, that continues to increase in certain areas, and traffic keeps getting worse in a lot of major cities, right? So and a lot of companies are going to be based in there, and they don't want to necessarily say, well, I need to hire someone here who can make can come into the office every day or 2 days a week, right? So you're opening up your talent pool, right? When you do adopt, remote work, as a way of operating in your organization, you're going to be able to go out and hire someone that's the best fit for you and best fit for the project or the company, by opening up that talent pool and not having that geographic restriction to it.
Now you're probably doing a lot of hiring because if you're supplementing teams in companies, you're bringing a lot of people. How tight are you finding the market right now? I look at all the data, but how are you seeing it out in the field?
Yeah, no, I would say that's right with what we see, right? So we're every day we have a recruiting team, and they're working every day on fulfilling roles for our clients. We do see that there is there is challenges, right? I see the roles that are more successful in filling and finding the right candidates tend to be ones that have more flexibility. Some of our clients, we're based in Florida, a lot of business down here in Florida, and we're seeing net migration positive here in the state, and in South Florida. So we're seeing people that want to move here, right? So that is helping our clients here that do require, in office or some kind of hybrid, type of role. So that's helping, right? That this is an area where people are moving to. But it's improving. I think it's improving. But it's still pretty tight, I would say.
Now, I'm gonna throw out another premise, and I want to get your reaction to it. I posit that those technology companies that are not just deploying solutions out to the customer, but are also investing in training and helping their customers achieve cultural change, particularly as it relates to remote work, are the ones that are going to deliver the most successful projects. What's your take on that premise?
So do you mean on the education side, on like upskilling, or reskilling, or is it more just kind of training to adopt to that environment?
It's intentionally broad, but if I'm leaning into one of those two, it's around the management changes, the kinds of things you talk about in the book that you actually can train customers how to be effective using these remote technologies, and you'll end up delivering more successful
Oh yeah,
projects.
yeah, yeah. So I think that you know, it's how let's take the example of like software development projects and IT projects, and a lot of that, there is some, depending on the complexity of the project, it's going to require some in-person type of interaction, right? But for the most part, most of these projects can be done 100% remote, and they're using certain tools and software tools to deliver the project, and sometimes clients may not be so used to those things, right? And some of our clients and some of the organizations have their own ways of how they manage projects, right? And maybe they're not so used to kind of how other different companies and other teams may use to deliver on projects. So what we like to do is kind of just say, look, here's how just in a normal project, here are some of the elements of the management, right? And we have these meetings, we have stakeholder meetings, right? We have tasks and milestones that are defined, and things that have been around for a long time, right? These are not new concepts. But they're now, whereas sometimes these meetings take place, a lot of them now are being taken remote, right? So how to adapt that, right? And now we're having like these online virtual meetings or remote meetings versus in-person meetings. So we like to just and I think a lot of today now, the last 2 3 years, a lot of people are used to that already, so it's not a big shock to them, right? So it's just adapting those new communication, the ways of communicating and exchanging, information, into those projects that they may not have been used to before. So
Gotcha. If people are interested in learning more, how can they get more resources and continue exploring the topic?
Yeah, so they can visit our website. That's TECKpert.com. That's spelled TECKpert.com. We have a blog there. We write a bunch on just tech in general, and obviously about the workforce, the tech workforce. We have some white papers that we've created on staff augmentation, which is an area that we focus on a lot in, as well as digital transformation. There's also a link to our book there. That you can go to. The Future of the Workforce Is Now, and there's a link on our website there, and there's just interested in some of the stuff that we do, there's information on what we do here at TECKpert as well.
Awesome. Well, Adrian, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for your time and attention. Time is a finite resource, and I really value you giving me some of yours. If you like this video, you can let me know with a like of the video, and even more valuable, hitting the subscription button. My content is all free, and I use metrics like subscriptions to pay the bills, so it has real value. The content here is produced under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. If you're interested in more content like this, you can get access to content early via our Patreon at patreon.com/MSPradio. It's our give what you want model where you set the value of what you think the content is worth. If you like this podcast, you can catch it daily as the 5-minute news and commentary show, The Business of Tech, available on all your favorite podcatchers with links at businessof.tech. Just hit that big blue button to subscribe. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen, and I really value the interaction. If you want to say something in the comments, I do respond and watch all that, and I look forward to talking to you next time.